It is the small actions that you can do that makes the biggest difference. Quite a exciting case, and we feel proud of that. So it's not only looking for insights, but the way you get to them. It has to change because that's the only way you can reach this critical thinking. And I think such a reality is possible only if organizations start to adopt more seriously strategic design in their processes.
Welcome to the Productized podcast, where we explore the minds of the most innovative entrepreneurs and leaders in product management and design. Today, my guest is Krasi Bozhinkova, the founder and strategy director of Owtcome, a strategic design agency. Krasi is passionate about solving complex problems and leveraging technology to create value for society. With intensive experience in strategic design, brand management, and innovation, she has helped numerous companies navigate uncertainty and achieved lasting success. Will also be facilitating a workshop at Productized Conference this October in Lisbon titled Decoding the Secret of Lasting Product Value, where she'll share insights on creating enduring product value by prioritizing critical needs and understanding user tension. Crazy, welcome to the Productized podcast.
Hi, very nice to be here, and I've been looking a lot forward to this episode. So finally, I get the chance to meet
Likewise.
you and
Yeah.
share my thoughts and ideas.
Likewise, I am really happy that we are here today. I'm very excited for our conversation. But before we deep dive, I would like to start with a couple of fun questions.
Mhm.
So, what is your favorite app right now?
Lately, I've been a big fan of Vinted. I don't know if you know the app for secondhand clothing, but I get excited if I sell some of my pieces and give them a new home and new experiences. So it's
Mhm.
my number one app at the moment.
Interesting. That's the one that no one, not other guests have named before.
Really? I was
Yeah.
torn with Netflix because I'm a big fan of that, but Vinted wins at the moment.
A lot of people are fan of bank applications.
Oh, okay, I see. Very serious.
And what is your favorite summer activity?
I discovered last year with a friend of mine a SUP, which stands for stand up paddling. I don't know if you have seen these beautiful long platforms and people gracefully paddling on top. So I happen to love it too, and I try to do it every now and then because it helps me calm down and enjoy the canals. And I live in the Netherlands, so there are a lot of canals. I must say, not always my balancing skills are up to the par, but in a warm summer day, it's okay. It's forgiving.
Nice. I have tried it in the ocean. It is very fun.
Oh, in the ocean, I've never done it. Only in canals, which are relatively calm, unless a speedboat comes your way, which is very annoying. And I've been begging them to slow down because it creates this ripple effect, and my balance can't stand that.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine. Thank you, Crazy. So, uh, let's dive in our first segment, which would be about vision and inspiration. Um, Very related to your career, where you are founded an agency. So, your career is deeply rooted in strategic design and innovation. Um, so, what initially sparked your interest in these areas?
I've always found it quite exciting field to be because of this idea that through design you can actually put experience at the core of what the company does, and of course the product, which means that it's beginning to be a bit more around outcomes and enabling real product value as opposed to worrying about product features. And my true interest began when I started to actually wonder and question what drives meaningful outcomes and how strategic differentiation can be protected, which led me on the path to think about empathy, co creation, adaptability, and their role they play in success. And probably 15 years by now, I happened to be at 99U, another conference, quite famous back then in New York. And to me, this was an eye opening moment because I saw suddenly that design is a lot to do beyond aesthetic, a lot more important for how companies innovate, for how they anticipate user needs. And since then, it became kind of my passion to think about these aspects and to see innovation from this angle, from the design point of view, so that we can define and drive more positive change, and also think about what does it mean for the users, the long-term impacts and the broader ecosystem. Very complex and difficult topics, but nevertheless interesting.
Yeah. And what was the moment for you to that made you decide or start thinking about founding your
Um,
own agency?
many people ask me this question, and the funny thing is that I connected a little bit to a probably not very popular idea around failure, because when I was in my previous corporate career working at a company called SES, I was part of the product and strategy teams, and I felt the pain of every failed product, and we had few of those. Of course, a lot of success, but these failures somehow resonated a lot with me, more so in the context, not that it was a waste of money and resources, but the impact it had on people. And I thought that there must be a better way how we need to handle uncertainty. Unfortunately, the traditional approaches that we were using back at that time weren't really cutting it, and we couldn't channel these ideas effectively. So I decided that there is a need for these radical different processes to really put design at the center of outcomes, which led me
Hmm.
to creating an outcome. A funny coincidence of the name, but by the way, I write it with W, and there is a
Hmm.
backstory around it because the first three letters, OWT, actually stand with one with tech. I've been a passionate tech follower for many years, and somehow
Hmm.
I decided to acknowledge that and honor it.
Uh-huh. And you see those failures that you refer to, do you see now that many years have passed as failures due to uh, design bad choices?
It is quite a complex problem. I cannot just say that they were attributed to the fact that we didn't use design methodologies, because many factors play a role. But what I could say is that if we were able to discover and know more early in the journey what are these critical customer needs, where is the value generated, I think probably would have made different product decisions that would have led to a better outcome at the end of the day. But design played one aspect of it. I would also say that collaboration and team dynamics play another very important role, which contributes to success or failure.
Hmm.
And the overall status of the industry. How is the industry actually willing to tolerate innovation? And back then, when I was still working, this was prior to Elon Musk launching satellites, and the industry was pretty traditional, quite standard, and a little backwards in a way, not necessarily welcoming radical innovation. And I think maybe these factors contributed to what I have experienced.
Hmm. Yeah. And how do you see now the future of strategic design now that we live in a different world where many things have been broken, let's say,
I think
many boundaries?
yeah, there are challenges for sure, quite serious challenges that we have to overcome, but it also provides an opportunity to push a little bit the boundaries of imagination and to really rethink the kind of impact we want to leave. And I often connect these to two ideas that, of course, we have to learn how to use these new technologies, AI, to mention some, but at the same time, we have to unlearn in order for us to see with these fresh eyes to unlock creativity and this realm of possibilities. It is not possible if we keep using our traditional approaches and traditional mindset. So this shift requires quite a leap, and it is also connected to the way we use empathy, the way we think about systemic issues surrounding design. And I think now, more so than in the past, it proves that this is kind of urgent to solve in order for us to tackle these complex problems. But if we begin to create something where design influence organizational culture, where brands actually stand for purpose, together, I believe we can overcome these challenges. And I think such a reality is possible only if organizations start to adopt more seriously strategic design in their processes.
And do you still see a lot of companies behind or
Oh,
in the?
yes, yes. I think there are many, and they may not even call it strategic design what they do, but actually, I'm pretty sure not many call their practice and approach to innovation and design and this obsession with customer centricity. So every time you see a company, like for example, Decathlon, talking fearlessly around how important are the customers and the change they do, this means that design is in the back, influencing and driving force of everything that they do. So you may not recognize the title, this fancy word strategic design, but you can find it through the actions and the way companies and brands behave. So that's how
Yeah,
I feel optimistic, because I see more and more companies taking this necessary step in order to also create more emotional connection with their users. And this gives me hope that such
yeah,
a reality and future where we can together think about more holistic and sustainable approaches is not far stretched.
yeah. I when I asked you if you still see a lot of companies doing the transition or still not even beginning it, I totally agree with you. Like there are still some a lot that it's hard to quantify, but there are still some that are in that process. And what I what people sometimes tell me is that I know that my company is in this situation that they are not thinking things as they should. We could do improvements in the process, in our processes,
Mhm.
um, but it's too big for me to change. So people leave.
Sometimes it may feel overwhelming, but in my experience, actually, it is the small actions that you can do that makes the biggest difference, because this change that we are looking for, this is not a aha moment that happens once and it's there forever. It's a process, and a process that takes small steps. And I think I personally believe everyone can make a difference if only they begin to do something even 1% better than they've done yesterday. And slowly, this compounded effect of positive change can actually take momentum, and it can shape um, the culture of the company and also the future. But
Yeah,
it does require action. So there is no other way around. So unless we act, we can't see this through.
yeah, totally agree with you. All right, crazy. So the second topic that I would like to talk to challenge you to talk about is staying ahead. Um, what trends are in the in technology, because we live in a very fast-paced world.
Mhm.
So how do you approach the challenge of staying ahead of trends and these technological sorry technological advancements?
It's a mouthful word, yes, a
Yes.
term, sorry, not a word. For us, thinking about the future and staying ahead really comes down to, if I can narrow it to one concept, which we called scenario planning. So we don't believe so much in forecasting, because forecasts are dangerous, and most likely you'll be off by a lot. The margin of error is super high. But what is interesting, how to counter that, is to think about these clear and uncertain changes that you can actually anticipate through these scenarios. And the other thing that I would also mention, in addition to scenarios, what we do is we actually challenge how we find insights. So it's not only looking for insights, but the way you get to them, it has to change, because that's the only way you can reach this critical thinking and explore emergent spaces. And we love to experiment as well with strategic design. It's a relatively new field and not so popular so much in strategy, but from our experience, if you manage to create this space when you hold tensions between opposite ideas, a lot can happen. And this emergence is really, it fascinates me a lot. And it's quite a powerful technique, despite that it's a lot of fun to do, because you
Mhm.
stretch your mind in such a way that in a traditional methods, you're too rational and it's not possible. So you have to also embody a little bit of the emotional side when you think about these trends and the impact they have on the users and on society at large.
Yeah. Yes, yes. And how do you do that job also? So with the your companies, your customers.
Of course, we help them create these scenarios so that we can probe and think about different possible futures that they can prepare and anticipate. But a big part of our work is also rooted in anticipating evolving user needs. And I'm a big proponent also on social media when it comes to that. And I strongly believe that we have to be really critical and aware of the challenges that our customers or users, whatever we want to call them, experience today, but also understand their future aspirations. Because this change that you spoke about, these technological advancements, they also impose new frictions to users. The way they perceive risk, what was risky to you yesterday may be completely different today. You mentioned these financial apps, they play a big role of how we think about risk, how we allocate our time, the resources. This whole nature of value may change. So, with our work with clients, we stress a lot on this idea that they have to understand not only the evolving user needs, but also find out these new frictions. And this is the external environment, let's say, but also internally, back to the failure that triggered me to think about outcome. The idea of the importance of collaboration, the agility, how do you build this flexible strategy? It comes down to working as a team, but working differently. And when I say collaborate, it doesn't mean that there is a one person that contributes the idea and the others agree. It's actually a real co-creation of the team, but everyone has to chip in. But in order for this process to happen, you also have to bring different people with different expertise to the table. So we help our clients find this nice balance and um, at the same time also rethink their way of working with partners, because these days hybrid has taken a completely different dimension beyond the space and beyond tech into this extension of who is actually part of your team. It used to be your colleagues in the company, but now it can be also your partners. They could be part of the team. So this whole idea of rebalancing a little the boundaries around collaboration, I think is another important element when we think about technological advancements to consider.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's you touch one point that I think it's so important, that is to bring different disciplines, skills within a team. People that come from different backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Then that can be a game changer.
Yes, and you know why? Because it helps us overcome these biases. Every one of us carries certain biases, whether we do it consciously or subconsciously, and it's very difficult to get away from your own head and
Mhm.
expand your own perspective unless you hear these different points of view and different ideas. And before you know it, it is possible to stretch this. Ideation and then discover something that is much more interesting
Yeah.
and tackle the problem from a different point of view, but not alone. So
Or the other person will help you see the dead corners that are completely black to you. You are not even going there 'cause
Yes,
you
it's
are
in your
unaware.
blind spot, and we all have it. So no one is
Yeah.
immune. And one thing that we always advise our clients at the beginning of the engagement is to make sure that they bring a really diverse team to the table, because that's almost like a recipe for success. So without that, it's impossible to do what we need to do.
Hmm. And I would even state that you referred work or remote work. Um, that is the idea of now remote work being more like more easy to do. It's more like people are more used to it. It wouldn't be strange. It gives opportunity for companies to have a higher possibility of hire more diverse team,
Yes.
because they will probably reach to different uh, people that are born in different countries, that live in different countries, and that doesn't mean necessarily that they come from different backgrounds, but they have a different culture, and that itself already like can be interesting, and I see that as something very interesting.
Mhm. So we make
Mm.
sure that we help them to achieve an alignment, because diversity is great, but it also poses very new challenges to the success of your project or product, whatever you're working on. You have to make sure that everyone understands and commits and aligns. And not many frameworks and tools exist out there. So we make sure that part of our work also addresses this
Mhm.
aspect on this rapid alignment, so that everyone is on the same page when it comes to value, but also when it comes to risk. So there are
Yeah.
no ambiguity. There shouldn't be ambiguities in the process, otherwise it's very dangerous.
Um, and so this is the part of bringing navigating change and risk.
Mhm.
Um, but how do you then advise your customers regarding branding? So I do believe you think branding is a very strong element, and it's important to be differentiate the person from the company from the marketplace. But how do you deal with this branding idea?
It's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked, because brand is like has a sweet spot in my heart as well as product. But on a serious note, I personally think that it's easier to wrap your head around, because brand is like a really abstract concept, and it has carries many things. It's about every impression, feeling, moment, interaction of the company with the consumer. So it can become quite an overwhelming to even wrap your head around what exactly is a brand. But if you think of a brand as a person, like a vibrant personality, and then you can narrow it down to actually three essential things that you need to worry about, which is emotion, value, and also an experience. And to make it even more specific to the example of the person, how does the person represent themselves in this world? Well, we have an authentic fingerprint. So this is your solid foundation that first you have to establish who are you, what's your fingerprint as a brand. Then is this authentic representation. I like to wear black, you wear white shirt, your hair is down, mine is up. So authentic, something that is truly yours, which as a
Mhm.
brand can be embodied with actions but also values. And lastly is this idea of the community, because the brand is never alone. The brand needs audience, the brand needs to connect in a meaningful way in order to build trust. And in my opinion, these three elements around value, emotion, and experience, if you wrap it up around the brand and think around the brand from this point of view, you'll be able to create something that is authentic and truly different from your competitors, as you mentioned. Because the
Mhm.
space is very unforgiving, let's say, and very demanding. Also, because as consumers, our interests and value system changes. What I used to appreciate before, probably I don't now. I may wanted to buy my clothes in the store. Now I say vintage. So things change. But as a brand, you have to also understand where the consumer is. in order to create this alignment, in order to also appeal to them on an emotional side.
Mhm. And can you please give some practical actions or ideas to we have defined the brand, the values, and what we want the customer to feel
Mhm.
when they are interacting with us. But now, how do we pass this to action?
Um, Once you establish this idea of a strong brand promise, so I commit to you and I stand for, let's say, purpose. So that's my flagship. In order to bring it to action, it means that now, as a brand, I need to think about how can I drive positive change? How can I actually influence you as a consumer to want to change? Because taking my brand or my product, it means for you to leave something else behind, and there is always an aspect of change. But in order for you to do this, you have to have a really good reason, which is back to this idea of the brand promise being aligned to the product value and the product experience. So if I have to explain to our clients how they can uh, take and see this change happening in the market and the actions and all of what you mentioned, I always go back and say we need this solid identity, because if the identity and the fingerprint is not there, it's going to be almost mission impossible. But after that, we have to give the consumer this reason to want to change. And it has to
Mhm.
be very emotional and very strong and clearly understood.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. Um, so Crazy. Moving on to the next topic, we are going to you are going to have a workshop
Yes.
in October named "Decoding the Secret of Lasting Product Value."
Mhm.
Could you please give us an overview of the critical need model, what the critical need model is, and how it differs from traditional product development approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super actually excited, and we are preparing right now for the workshop. So everything is going well. And I think our guests are going to have a lot of fun. But to answer your question, so critical need model, we created it because we felt that this landscape of user needs is moving just too fast and is no longer static. That requires a different approach. And in our model, we distinguish between four different type of needs. The basic, which is undifferentiated, and this is basically your entry point into the game. Without that, there is nothing. Then is the critical need, which plays a really central piece at the framework. But in a way, we don't stop there, because it is, as I said at the beginning, it's interesting to understand what are your, as a user, current challenges and goals and objectives. But we also have to anticipate what are your aspirations and what, as a user, you would be interested next. That's why in the model we carry two future related components of the need, which is the latent need, something that you haven't quite actively pursue as a consumer. But more interestingly, to stretch on the innovation aspect, is the unmet need, something that is very obscure and definitely not on top of your mind right now. But when the right conditions happen and at the right point in time, it would become very
Mhm.
important. So in order to reach this customer centricity and lasting differentiation, you have to start with the critical need, but also evolve towards the unmet need.
Mhm.
You asked how is the critical need model different from other frameworks. For those of the audience that are familiar, I'll mention two: the Kano model, which is used by many in the product space and the design space, and perhaps jobs to be done. But the difference between our model, the critical need, and Kano, the jobs to be done, is that we've taken this holistic approach and also the future focused. And I would also say that one difference between us and the other models is that I don't want to call them traditional, but they focus really on the functional aspects of the features, being jobs or being the customer needs. Whereas for us, we also try to dive deeper into this emotional component, which I believe is very important. And in order to create this futuristic dimension into the model, we actually worry a lot about the unknown. And you may wonder what exactly is the unknown in that domain, but think of it as like hidden pains or unknown gains, unknown pains or gains. These are concepts that are really submerged and not really very explicit. So we have to have a method to uncover what is that, and that's
Mhm.
definitely not present in the other models. And
Mhm.
we see a lot of use specifically for these aspects, which makes it really interesting to see how people make use of it.
Mhm. I'm very interested in knowing more about uh, how do you uncover later needs or unmet needs, or this area that is less you saying that the customers still don't know yet that they will need it.
Yeah, we have a special way of thinking and stretching the space around asking multiple questions, the famous five whys around what is known, so that we can create an opening and try to dive deeper into this unknown. So there is a process behind this. So it's not just emergent happening, but we follow a certain methodology that can get us to stretch these ideas. But you have to start with the critical need, because unless this
Mhm.
is understood, it is very difficult to make then the leap towards the unmet need, because you don't have a solid starting point in a way.
Mhm.
To keep asking and dive deeper into these dimensions around the unknown pains and gains. But there are
Mhm.
ways and techniques of how to do that. And one other thing that I should mention around the critical need is we also have these three dimensions that we are looking around: the urgency, necessity, and impact. So, to answer your question, how do you find unmet need or latent need? There we see a lot of emphasis on the impact, because for a critical need, of course, there needs to be certain impact right now, but this impact is often realized in the longer term, which means not now. So when we look for the latent and the unmet need, we for sure think about impact.
Mhm. Okay, and whilst in the critical need, it's we are more concerned with urgency.
No, no. The critical need requires the three ingredients: urgency,
Mhm.
necessity, and impact. So there has to be some impact, otherwise it's not critical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Otherwise it would be basic. But what I'm saying is that if you want to stretch, then you double down on impact even more. Because for critical need, you don't have to go so far into the realization of impact. But if
Exactly.
you want to know where is your unmet need, then you have to think about that more, more so
Mhm.
than in the current moment of the critical need.
Mhm. And can you share some customer stories, success stories, um, of a customer that applied the critical need model?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've experimented with different size of companies and also different segments. So we've done some work with this model in the B2B, business to business, and also in the business to consumer. In the business to business, what was an interesting test to the model was in working with one tech startup. Thinking about remote healthcare, we actually had to bring to the table three different stakeholders, because believe it or not, healthcare is not about just the end users, but you also need your healthcare provider and lastly the insurance company. And every one of these critical stakeholder, the dynamics there were different. So we used the model of the critical need to think about what matters and where is this intersection between these different needs, which we had to really address at the same point. And this, I would say, was one of the most complex cases, because you had not just one segment from a product point of view, but you had three, and you had to
Mhm.
overlay these different dynamics. But it worked, and the team is now proceeding with the product rollout. So quite a exciting case, and we feel proud of that. And the other one that I want to mention, completely different environment this time, business to consumer. We had a chance to work with one company from Latin America, and in the field of specialty coffee. But what was different from their product was that it is also newly regenerative organic certified, and that certification is a brand new category. Very few labels exist on the market, which meant that in order for us to do the work with the critical need model, we also had to think about the consumer segmentation, but differently, not based on demographics, but more so on behavior and values, since they play a big role. And I'm very excited because the product is going to roll in US supermarkets later in the year, towards December, if I remember the timing. So I can't wait to see it and see
Nice.
what is the reaction of the consumers. But yeah, really interesting case. Keep an
Nice.
eye on regenerative organic certified coffee from Colombia.
Okay, I've never heard about it. Nice. Um, I guess like all these things that we have been talking about lately in this past half an hour. So innovation, using the critical need model, building good product and with good design, it's all requires good leadership. So in as someone with your experience, what are the key skills that you think are essential for emerging leaders?
On this point, I actually have three skills, not one. I when I was thinking about that, I couldn't narrow it down and I couldn't make up my mind because I believe the three that I mentioned are equally important. And I'll start with empathy because I think that in order for you to build trust and to have this open communication, which as a leader is paramount to success, you have to have empathy, and you have to make sure that either your team or your partners or whoever you're collaborating, this other new colleague, there are the values are understood and they feel motivated and um, uh, recognized for their contribution. But in addition to empathy, as a leader, you also have to have a lot of, in my experience, resiliency, because it's not easy. It's not easy to achieve anything, and success is exciting, but it doesn't happen all the time. And in a way, setbacks is what actually defines you as a leader more so than the success. So knowing how you deal with failure, how you can bounce back. I think it sets not just the right tone to the team if you're a leader,
Mhm.
but also on a personal level for you to keep going and to move forward. And I find that skills particularly important and critical. And the last one I want to mention is around this whole idea of a lifelong learning. There is never an end date, and you always have to be a curious person if you want to be a leader, to expand your perspectives and think about how to get better, even
Yeah.
with 1%.
Yes, we had a guest in past episodes that referred the need to know one's values, one's personal values
Yes,
to.
that's also very important, where you stand and how to draw your boundaries, and with
Mhm.
what you can compromise and where you actually put a line on the sand and say no. I think as a leader, that skill is that capability is very critical because it
Yeah.
also brings forward your authenticity, who you are as a person. And I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, it's also very important. So I have number four.
It's not more. I as I say it's not like a skill. It's more like you need to do your own personal job with you first.
Yes,
Coach yourself or find someone to coach you or use any other help outside, but have those values well defined. Know yourself or know thyself.
yes,
What did you think?
absolutely. Because the job of a leader is a difficult one and always lonely sometimes. You
Mhm.
you have to make tough decisions, not popular. You're probably not there to be liked, but you have to also think about the future beyond now and to like stretch yourself. So absolutely, these core values that make a person, I think, they are the prerequisites
Mhm.
before you get into the leadership. You have to be a really decent human being, I think.
Yeah. Well, Krasi, it's been so lovely to talk to you. We are reaching the end of our interview,
Mhm.
and um, before we wrap up, I would like to do a this or that game.
Sure,
So please,
I like it.
yeah,
Yes, let's do it.
don't think too much.
No,
Morn- Morning meetings or even evening calls,
evening calls.
digital tools or traditional methods,
Digital. I love digital.
working remotely or in the office,
Remote.
hmm. Data-driven decisions or intuition-based choices.
Intuition based. I count on them more. Of course, I love data, but there is a strong part that um,
Good. Books or podcasts.
books. I love books.
And do you have books to recommend?
Yes, I actually have. I've been reading right now. You are not so smart, but by David McRaney, and it's such a lovely read. It makes me laugh every night. It's my go-to book before I go to sleep. But I also have other favorites in the space of space. I really enjoy Chaos by James Blake, and another one about black holes. It's called Black Holes Blues by Jana Levin. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting read and quite. I'm fascinated by this topic.
Nice. I've never. The only space book have read was A Brief History of Time.
I haven't read that one, but it's on my list.
It's it's very interesting, but there are some parts I'm just whoa. I can't
Probably,
can't.
yes.
Yeah, but it's very good. And what is the best advice that you ever received in your career?
Somebody told me, and I don't really know who, but it goes our phrase because it may be even a quote. I'm not sure, but I repeat it to myself every now and then, and it goes that unless you believe in yourself, others won't. So
Mhm.
I try to, even when at times it's difficult. I always remember that if I don't believe in myself, for sure, no one else will.
Good one. And for those want to reach out to you for your advice, where can they find you?
I'm often on LinkedIn, so with if you Google my name Krasi Bozhinkova, you'll find me. But they can also send me an email. It's easy. Also Krasi at this time outcome spell with w.com. And I'm happy
Mhm.
to answer any questions or even have a chat with those that are interested to know more or have urgent dilemmas.
Good. Grazie. It's been so great talking to you. We'll see each other at the conference
Oh,
this year in
it's
October.
been
Very
pleasure.
soon.
Thank you so much for having me, and
Thank
I
you.
love your questions. And good luck with the podcast. I can't wait to hear from the other guests as well to get to know everyone.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.